So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. So the 153 fish, uh, again, Pisces is the two fish. So this is the Vesica Pisces. I hope you guys can still see this, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes,
Very
we
good.
can see it loud and clear. It's gorgeous.
All right. So this section right here is the Vesica Pisces, and we know Pisces is the two fish. So all we have to do to find the two fish is do this. You recognize the
Right.
symbol?
Yeah, the
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one fish,
The fish
okay.
and here's two
for the
fish.
fisher of men, absolutely.
Right, so here's the two fish in the Vesica Pisces. This center right here, the mathematical equation for it is 265 over 153. There's your 153. They were talking about numerology here. They're talking about sacred mathematics. 153 is also a Fibonacci number, by the way. So what I'm going to do, just
Right.
as I gave that first example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you, because as you see these patterns begin to form, I'm going to show you a ton of them, and over again, you're going to see them. And people are going to have questions. They're going to say, what's the point of this? So I'm going to address that now, and then I'm going to address it again later to remind you. So what is the point of all this that I'm about to show you? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus was when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is astrologically speaking, encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive, the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, etc. Eventually, they learned how to write and they wrote them down. It evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians in the New Testament, then to the Muslims in the Quran, then to the Book of Mormon, and I'm going to show you all that. This quote that I read to you right here is one of my favorite ones, and it says, "My point once again is not that these ancient people told literal stories, and we are not smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally." And that's basically where
That
we're
makes
at.
sense.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is the zodiac, guys, with Cancer up here, summer, fall, winter, spring. When you connect these four signs for the seasons, it makes the cross. It's the cross of God's Son that he carries with him to his death. Now, what I want to show you too is the patterns you're going to see. So if I'm talking about Aries the ram, there's two types of patterns you can see. You have what's known as the connecting signs. That would be Pisces down here and Taurus up here. These are the connecting signs. The other pattern you can have is what's known as the opposing sign, which is just across the zodiac wheel. So these are the kind of patterns that it's going to make, and it's only going to make these kind of patterns. The other thing I wanted to bring out is that these lines right here that I'm highlighting don't actually exist in the sky. You don't look in the sky and then everything's separated.
Do
What
people
these
really
are,
think that they
Right.
do?
right? What
Some
these
even
lines,
I'm an
overlap.
astrology. That's why I think that's
what these lines right here are, is it delineates something called a cusp or a handover date. This is the last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of another sign, of the next sign, I should say. So it's a 6-day period where the energies blend. So for example, here, Gemini is the twins. So if we're in Gemini and I'm talking about the twins, I'm talking about the twins. Here's Cancer. It's the crab. So if we're talking about the crab, we could talk about the crab. But if you're here in the storyline, right here at the cusp, you could talk about twins or the crab. So this is how the code works, and I'm going to show it to you. There's questions you can ask in the Bible. How Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why was he dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. All that's astrology, and I'm going to show you that. So this important context right here, Genesis 1:14. Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. And that's exactly what the zodiac does right here. That's exactly what it does. Now, I'm going to teach you the 12 signs in a sec, but I want to let you know that each zodiac sign is called a house or an era or an eon or a sign or a mansion. There's many different words that they use to describe it in the Bible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the 12 signs, and I'm going to teach you key words in each sign that you're going to see how they attach to it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game of the treasure hunt. So I'm going to start with Aquarius, even though the year begins in Aries. And even further back then in the ancient Egyptian times, it started in Virgo, the harvest. This is why the sun came to an end in Leo and was born to a virgin and came back to life in the harvest season. Aries begins the year, but I start with Aquarius. You'll see in 2 seconds why. The story of Aquarius, which is represented by the man, whereas the sign Virgo is the sign of the woman. The story of Zeus and the young boy. This is one of the early iterations of the sign of Aquarius. So what this means, or what the story was Zeus saw a young boy on earth, and he wanted him on Mount Olympus, or in heaven, as they used to say, with him. And the funny thing about this is Mount Olympus is actually a real place on earth. And none of the Greeks, when they were telling these stories, ever bothered to go up to it and check to see if the gods were there. But besides that, the story of Zeus and the young boy, he wanted the boy up there, Mount Olympus, with him. And the boy's father said no. So Zeus ends up bargaining with the boy's father, gives him land, money, and all sorts of stuff. Eventually what happens is the boy's father lets him go up. When he's up there, just like in this picture right here, he is feeding the gods something called ambrosia. That was their nectar. That's what they sustained on. And he's doing this day in and day out, day in and day out. And he just gets tired of this mundane existence that he has. So one day he gets fed up. He goes to the edge and he pours it out right here. That's where the water's coming out. This is the ambrosia. He pours it out. What happens is it causes a flood on earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Anyway, Zeus, who's a very unpredictable, angry god, just very sexual, just a deviant, just unpredictable, he was going to punish him. But in a moment of self-reflection, which was rare for Zeus, he was like, I probably shouldn't have brought him up, this, that, and the other thing. So what I'm going to do is instead of punishing him, I'm just going to immortalize him as the constellation Aquarius. So the key words would be man, because this is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, because here's the water pitcher. Fountain, because of the Greek fountains and the statues were all built to resemble this. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea. These are water bodies. Now, Aquarius is an air sign. It's not a water sign. But because there's liquid here, there's water here, it can be used to describe water. Whereas Pisces is the mutable sign. It's the two fish in the water. Pisces is actually a water sign. It's a mutable sign. So all the same water examples. Stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean goes for Pisces. Now, whether you know it's Aquarius water or Pisces water depends on the patterns that it's going to make in the heavens. And this is why I started with Aquarius, because I wanted to show that the first two signs that I talk about are water. Now, Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. There's also 3 different types of Passovers that occur. 3 different types of Passovers that occur during here. The first one is the astrological one, where on March 21st, the sun is going to pass over or hop over the equator and start to make its way to its height in the summer solstice, summer warmth, longer days. The Jewish Passover is when the angel of death is going to pass over all the houses in Egypt. And anyone that doesn't have the lamb's blood, the lamb right here, a lamb is a baby ram. That's Aries. What they're doing by covering their doorpost in the lamb's blood is they're identifying themselves as the people of Aries, the Jews are, whereas the Egyptians were the people of Taurus. That's why in the Egyptian records you always see the bull with its horns, and you see the sun.
Right, and can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I've seen here a lot lately online about like Jesus and him saying the I am. So like with this this analogy here, this teaching here, that would show that the eon or whatever, or the age, would have been Aries when Jesus was born, or right after Jesus was born. Am I correct?
No, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Basically,
Okay.
the Egyptians were Taurus. The Jews are Aries, the ram. That's why they blow the ram's horn during the high holidays, because they don't know any better. But that's what they're doing, is they're worshiping Aries. Anyway, anyone that doesn't wrap the lamb's blood on their doorpost, their firstborn sons get killed. In Christianity, this Passover is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son, which is Easter. And Easter is astrology too, by the way, because you have to have the spring equinox, March 21st, and then you have to have the first full moon after it. And then after the first full moon, you have to have the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. And that's how you describe when Easter is every single year. That's why the day keeps changing. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, you're talking about Aries. Hold on a sec. Why is this being like this? Oh, there we go. Okay. Ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn. Now, Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you're talking about bull, ox, calf, or cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's a story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. Remember those names, Castor and Pollux Troy, because they're going to come up later. This is the story of Achilles. This is another Greek story. So whenever you're talking about twins or brothers, that's Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab. The crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab. You even get the word crab from the letters in scarab. So whenever you're talking about crab or beetle, that's Cancer. So why is Cancer the crab? There's a reason. Because starting on December 25th, where I just put that little line, the sun rises a degree on its axis. On the 26th, it rises another one. On the 27th, it rises another one. On the 28th, another one. Every day. This is not to scale, by the way. I'm just showing. Every single day, the sun's rising a degree on its axis. It's getting higher and higher and higher. Now the days are getting longer. The nights are getting shorter. When the sun hits Cancer, right here, the summer solstice, what it's going to do is it's not going to rise a degree higher or drop a degree. What it's going to do is it's going to shuffle to the sideways like the crab for 3 days. Then on June 25th, it's going to drop a degree. On the 26th, another degree. On the 27th, another degree. Every single day now, the day is getting shorter. The night is getting longer. And as it comes around here to Sagittarius, the last day of Sagittarius, right here, this is December 21st. This is where the sun dies, because that's the beginning of winter. The ancients would look out on December 21st on the winter solstice, and they would see that the sun didn't crack the horizon. So they used to say that God's son was dead. And then what's going to happen is it's going to walk sideways for 3 days again, just like it did in Cancer, the crab that shuffles sideways. So suddenly God's son was dead for 3 days. We're on December 25th, right here. It's going to come back to life. The brand new son, born again, the light of the world, the only begotten son, is going to come back to life. And it's going to do this pattern all over again. Now, Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, woman, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, these are all grainy things that are harvested during the harvest season in the northern hemisphere thousands of years ago during Virgo. The wheat makes the bread, the barley makes the beer, the bread and the beer. And Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's son as it passes over, or actually this time technically passes under, the fall equinox, the equator. and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. So now in 2023, the Jewish New Year was September 15th. That is Virgo. That is the harvest season, which they got from the Egyptians. That's why the New Year was in Virgo. 8 days after the Jewish New Year, and it's always 8 days, there's a day called Yom Kippur, which is the day of judgment. Well, of course, the day of judgment happens in Libra, because if you add 8 days to September 15th, you get September 23rd. That's the first day of Libra. The day of judgment has to happen in Libra. So it's all law-related things. Law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, all law-related things. Libra is also wine and olive oil season, olive season. So this is when you collect the grapes and the olives, and you crush them to make the oil and the wine. So all law-related things, all wine-related things, grape-related things, all olive-related things. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is going to be judged in Libra, then it's betrayed in Scorpio, and then here in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun, inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest. And I went over this with you earlier. So the day of death is December 21st. That is the last day of Sagittarius. So all the deaths take place during Sagittarius. So whenever you're talking about horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally you have the goat for Capricorn. And the reason he's the goat is because if this is December 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, again, not to scale, the sun starts climbing a degree a day every single day, making its way back to its height in the summer solstice. It starts the climb up what is known as the Great Mountain, or the Zodiac, in Capricorn. And the reason Capricorn is a goat is because the mountain goats climb the mountain better than any animal out there. So those are the 12 signs. So whenever you hear goat or kid, for example, you're talking about Capricorn. So those are the 12 signs. Now, there are names that you give to Jesus in church. There are names that he's given. We're going to go over them real quick. When the sun, or Jesus, look, the sun is behind his head because Jesus is the sun. When the sun is in Capricorn, the goat, he's the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in the sign Aquarius, the man, he is the son of man. When the sun is in Pisces, the two fish, he's the fisher of men, and it's why he feeds the masses with two fish. When the sun is in Aries, the ram, he is the Lamb of God. Cancer, the scarab, the beetle, St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. When the sun is in Lion, or Jesus is in Leo, he is the Lion of Judah. When the sun is in Virgo, the lady holding the stalk of wheat, he's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. When the sun is in Libra, the scales, the justice, he's known as the just one. Then he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st, and it's also why he's worshipped on the Sunday. So I'm going to jump right into scripture here, and I'm going to show you how this works. Deuteronomy 32. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So, if I were to show you this real quick, the honey, here in Cancer, this is the beginning of summer in Cancer. In Cancer, there is a group of stars like this, a very tightly knit group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. That's where the honey comes from. The olive oil is Libra. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is right here in Sagittarius. This is where the Milky Way galaxy is. This is the beginning of winter. So from the beginning of summer all the way to the beginning of winter, that half of the year, that is your land of milk and honey. It is not a place on earth. Then he gave them lambs, that's Aries, and goats, that's Capricorn. They had the best rams, that's Aries, from Bashan, and the finest wheat. Virgo, the lady holding the wheat stalk. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes, that's Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So there's 10 signs in this one passage right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the zodiac in order to follow the story. So Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover, so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So Passover takes place in Aries, so we're right here. They walk to the Mount of Olives. Well, olives are Libra, so that's the opposing sign. So you go here. While here, they're waiting for Judas to betray him. Well, the betrayer is Scorpio, which is the next sign over right here. So there's two patterns right there. But there's very clear that he's not betraying him. They're waiting for him to betray. So you're not actually in Scorpio. You're still in Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? So what does he do? He gives the parable of the true vine. He's talking about, again, grapes. So that's how you use the zodiac to begin to break this down. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. It's a low form of life on Earth to slither on your belly. The first thing that God does in the Garden of Eden, after the deception from the snake, is not kick them out. The first thing he does is he takes the legs away from the snake, so he has to crawl on his belly. It's a punishment. In Mexico, during Santo de la Muerte, the men dress up in suits and get on their hands and knees and bellies and crawl to church. Now, the evolved form, also called the ascendant, is the eagle. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth, so the eagle is Scorpio. So Scorpio and Taurus are opposing signs. Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the four fixed signs. So what does that mean? Well, here, again, remember, summer, fall, winter, spring. This is the cross, right? I showed you. This is the cross of God's Son. These are known as the cardinal signs. That's why there's cardinals in church. If I were to take one of these signs, any of these 12 signs, you can actually break them down in astrology into 3 10-day segments. 1, 2, 3. Called deacons. That's why there's deacons and cardinals in church. Now, this is the cardinal sign. These 4. The fixed sign, there's 4 seasons. There's 12 zodiac signs, so there's 3 signs in each season. So this is the first sign in the season, the cardinal sign. This is the fixed sign. This is the mutable sign. The fixed sign is called the fixed sign because it's in between the 2 signs right here. It's dead of their season. Summer, Scorpio or Eagle. Fall, Aquarius. Winter, Taurus. Spring. So either there's a 4-headed creature that's going to be out there, or it's just making this pattern in the zodiac to just explain to you the fixed signs. In Ezekiel 10:14, it says, each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub, the second the face of a human being, the third the face of a lion, the fourth the face of an eagle. It's the same thing if you see Ezekiel's wheel, Ezekiel's vision. The tetramorph is actually known as the 4-headed animal. Now, in Revelation 12...
Isn't that also the 4 tribes of Israel?
It's the same thing, yeah. 12 tribes.
No, originally there was 4, but yeah, it's the astrology signs. So,
right. So Revelation 12, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So, A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So we have a 12 zodiac signs and a 24-hour a day clock. The sun spends 2 hours in each sign. So this is 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, 2 to 4. And then Virgo right here is 4 to 6. So if it is 4 to 6, the sun is still out. So if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. The moon will be down. So if the sun is up, the moon is down. Whereas if the moon is up, the sun will be at her feet. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. To the left is the constellation Draco, and this that I'm highlighting is its tail. It goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. In Matthew 10:16, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Sheep is Aries, and the wolf is the constellation Lupus, which is in Libra. Those are opposing signs. So be wise as serpents. The serpent is Ophiuchus, which sits right here between Scorpio and Sagittarius in sidereal astrology. So be wise as serpents, that's the serpent bearer, and harmless as doves. Well, the dove is one of the 8 evolved forms of Scorpio, aside from the eagle, the phoenix, the dove, and there's a few other ones here too. So you go from Aries to Libra, and then Scorpio, and then Ophiuchus. So it's opposing sign, and then 3 connecting signs right here in a row, just in that one sentence. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. So let's take a much longer passage and see if we can decode it as well. So this is a story of Job. What I'm going to read to you is God's answer to Job when Job's crying out to him. The first thing God says is, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The Mazzaroth was intentionally untranslated. It was left as Mazzaroth because they don't want you to know that the Mazzaroth literally translates to the zodiac. They don't want you to know that. That's why they leave it as Mazzaroth. Mazzaroth over time becomes the word Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today. Mazel Tov, which means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? These are 2 obvious open celestial metaphors. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? That's Taurus and the middle of Taurus and Gemini. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above. The bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper, which is Gemini and Cancer. So you have Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. So the first 3 are 3 signs in a row. Then he says, who can tip over the water jars of heaven? Well, that's the man tipping the water jar over. That's Aquarius. Do you hunt for the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lion? That's Leo. So far, we have this sign and these 4 in a row. That's what this is showing so far, just based on God's response. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion, which is located in Taurus and Gemini. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lamda Kile or Al Thaiman, which means 2 ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? So they mentioned the horse, so we know it's Sagittarius. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, they mentioned the quiver. What the quiver is it sits on the side of the horse and it holds the arrows so that the man with the bow and the arrow can shoot the sun. Then does the eagle soar your command and build its nest on high? The eagle is the evolved form of Scorpio. Finally says, can you pull in Leviathan, which was an ancient fish god, just like Mithra, just like Dagon, with a fish hook, and the fish would be Pisces. So right now, this is everything that they have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs in a row. We have these 2 connecting signs, and we have these 2 connecting signs. If I were to make patterns out of this, you go from Taurus to Scorpio, Sagittarius to Gemini, you go Aquarius to Leo, then you go Pisces to Virgo. I mean, this is literally just outlining the heavens is what it's doing. And it's doing so in such a creative, metaphorical way that people don't even realize this. This is why I mentioned that this is a farmer's almanac, because this is teaching you what's going on out there. The only thing, it was missing the goat, it was missing the scales, and it was missing the ram. So, questions to the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, the story goes in the Bible that the man came up to Jesus and he was blind, and then he was like, "Can you heal me?" And Jesus was like, yeah, with your faith I'll heal you, sure. So he puts dirt on he spits on his hands and he puts dirt on his face, on his eyes, and when it falls off, he's able to see. That's the story. But Jesus being the sun, what the sun does is, right now it's 7:30 at night, the sun is starting to go down here in Florida, so I'm blind. I can't see anything out there. You need artificial light just to see anything, lamp posts or anything. You can't drive, everything's dark. But in the morning, when the sun comes up and touches your eyes, you're able to see. How he walked on water? Well, we know the story that Jesus in the Bible walked on water. We also know that the sun does the same thing. If you've ever seen the sun cross a body of water as the sunset or sunrise, you could see it literally skip on the water. So that's 2. And then you have Christos right here, because the New Testament was written by Jews in Greek. There were no Christians. It was written by Jews in Greek. Christos is a title. It means the anointed one, or oil. And oil also walks on water. So between how Jesus walked on water, the Son walked on water, and Christ walks on water, that's a triple entendre right there that they basically leave in there for you to figure out. How he turned water into wine, this is a procedure. This is not a parlor trick. So what happens is, the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one factor only, actually. And it has to do with the sun. The rain. The rain, the sacred fluid, God's sacred fluid. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. What happens is, God's sacred fluid ejaculates onto earth, and then from her belly, food and trees and all sorts of life grow. So what happens is, Taurus, you plant the seeds for the grapes, and then it rains and rains and rains. April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. And then it rains and it rains and it rains. And then come Libra, you pick the grapes and you crush them into wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples? We can go over that real quick. Let me show you this right here. Aquarius right here would be John the Baptist baptizing everyone. Gemini right here would be, let's do Pisces. Let's go in a row. Pisces right here. Simon Peter. Michael goes to Mike. Thomas goes to Tom. Ronald goes to Ron. Samantha goes to Sam. But Simon to Peter doesn't make sense unless you understand astrology. See, Peter's job on Earth, he was a fisherman, and the fish is Pisces right here. Well, the ruling planet of Pisces happens to be Jupiter, or Jew-Peter. So that's Aquarius and Pisces right there. Gemini is Thomas Didymus, because Ta'om, or Tom in Hebrew means twin, whereas Didymus in Greek means twin. Now, Libra would be James. He's the just one, the scales. Scorpio would be Judas. He's the betrayer. I mean, I just gave you 5 examples right there. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I just wanted to show you that's why he has 12 disciples. Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th, we went over that. Now, this science only works for people on the northern hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the northern hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice, is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. So this is real simple to understand right here. This is Taurus right here. This is where you plow. This is where you put the plow on the bull, and this is where you plant the seeds so they can grow. This is in the northern hemisphere. So in order to find out when you plant in the southern hemisphere, because everything is reversed, you just go across the zodiac. The across sign from Taurus would be Scorpio. So this is when you plant in the southern hemisphere. And that's really just that simple. And then you just follow the pattern as is. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. I'm going to go through the entire book of Revelation real quick and show you how deep this runs, if you guys are still with me.
Yeah, I'm
We
here.
are
My
still
dog barked,
with you.
so I put it on.
Hmm. Yeah, and someone's mowing outside, so yeah, I'm on mute too. But yeah, we're still here. We have a few
Okay.
questions too, maybe when you're done.
Okay. So let's start with Revelation. This is the four-headed creature, Revelation 4:7. We did this already, so we're going to skip this one because we already did this. Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Well, the Lion of Judah happens to be Leo. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." Well, the Lamb is Aries. And it has to open the first seal, Aries, because it's the beginning of the year. That's when it starts. The 4 living creatures is the tetramorph, or the fixed signs that I went over in Revelation 4:7. They wrote in a voice like thunder. In Hebrew, the word for thunder translates to voices, which leads people to believe that when the ancient Jews used to hear thunder, they would think that was God speaking. So that's Revelation 6:1. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Who's the rider with the bow? That's Sagittarius. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures. The 4 living creatures again. The fixed signs. Saying 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley, the bread and the beer. This is Virgo. And do not damage the oil and the wine. That is Libra. So 2 examples of Virgo, 2 examples of Libra. They are connecting signs. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like a sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. So the reason they put goat hair and the moon together is that the goat is Capricorn, but Capricorn's opposing sign is Cancer, whose ruling planet is the moon. So that's why they put that there. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals, the sacral has 6, the solar plexus has 10, the heart has 12, and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 is 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144. You times that by 1,000, you get your 144,000. So what it's trying to tell you is when you've activated all your chakras, that's when you get to go see God. It is not a fixed number of people that are going to get to go to heaven. That is not what that is. And
All
out of
the
the
twin flame people are going to get to go all by themselves.
And out of the smoke, locusts came up down onto the earth and were given powers like that of scorpions on the earth. So first and foremost, what is the power of the scorpion? It betrays. That's what the scorpion does. It betrays. So how is a locust a betrayal? Well, we're going to get to this very shortly when we get into the book of Matthew. But when you talk about Leviticus 11, locusts are a food source. They're very specifically mentioned as a food source. So that's the good thing. But how is it a betrayal? How is it bad? Well, too many of them becomes a pestilence, a plague, like we see in Exodus. So that's basically what that's trying to explain to you. Now, the beast I saw, then this one right here is Revelation 12. This is the woman and the dragon, so we're going to skip that. The beast I saw represented a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. There's a constellation called Camelopardalis, which is a combination of Camelos and Pardalis. Camelos means camel, pardalis means leopard, the camel leopard. The original name for the giraffe back in the day was the camel leopard. They called it Camelot pardalis because they saw this weird, short, lanky, tall, lanky with spots, and they were like, it's a camel leopard. So that's where that was. And Camelot pardalis is in Gemini, so that's the leopard. The bear, Ursa Major, is in Cancer. The lion is in Leo. Gemini, Cancer, and Leo are 3 signs in a row. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, that's Aries, but it spoke like a dragon. The dragon goes from Aries to Sagittarius, so this is just talking about the 3rd sign, Aries. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh and frankincense are olive plants. I don't know if you know that, so that's Libra. Wine and olive oil, that is also Libra. Fine flour and wheat, that is Virgo. Those are connecting signs. Cattle, that's Taurus. Sheep, that's Aries. Those 2 are connecting signs. Horses, that's Sagittarius. And carriages, and the human beings, Aquarius and Virgo, are sold as slaves. So my point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So that is the book of Revelation. It's not scary at all. So a deep dive into the book of Matthew. So can you guys give me 1 minute to go grab a drink real quick, because my throat's like dying?
Absolutely. Take your time. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll be right back.
Go ahead.
Talk amongst yourselves.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. So, wow. Yeah, that's very, very interesting when you think about how this knowledge has been kept and hidden, too. It makes sense. Yeah. It's the how to know when. What's up there? It's the how to know when. It's what it is.
the worship of the sun.
And the planets, to know thyself through the planets.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Amazing. A
lot of people, like Christians, don't really understand that it is sun worship, So it's interesting to have someone on to be able to break it down a little bit deeper and, hit a lot of points with the symbology and stuff like that, Does anyone have any questions for him?
Oh, let's see. Jennifer.
I understand the information because I've seen some, not his information exactly, but I've seen astrotheology before. So I could ask him questions all day long.
Let's see. Oh, someone from your channel said Cesarian says Capricorn was once a unicorn.
Yes. You are right.
Well, no one.
Very good.
No wonder I feel special. Let's see.
I'm back.
There it is.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, so we have a question
Micah.
for you.
Yeah. How is the sun in each sign 2 hours each day? Do you get down to the nitty-gritty of the hours of the day?
I just did before. Let me show you again.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring it back up.
61. Okay, so I'm on slide 61.
There we go.
Okay, so I've written all over these, but check this out. This is midnight. This is midday, okay? Right? The sun is at its highest. The sun is at its lowest, right? Down here.
Yeah.
This is 12 to 2. This is 2 to 4. Oh, wait a minute. Why did it do that? 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, and then Virgo is 4 to 6. 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, same over and over again. Makes sense? There's 12 signs and there's a 24-hour-a-day clock, so the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign.
Amazing.
Well, yeah, there's 24 hours in a day, right? I mean, but we're not. When we do astrology, we're talking about constellations. The sun has to move fairly fast in the sky to get from one point to the other.
Well, the ancients knew this. The Egyptians knew this too. When you say what hour is it, or what's the hour, you're really saying when is Horus? Where is Horus?
Right.
Hour and Horus is basically anagrams too. They would look at the sky and say, "Where's Horus right now?"
Horus
Mhm.
is let me think about it. I'm an hour behind you guys, so well, does anyone else have any more questions?
Not so far. Angie has one about us reading. It doesn't pertain to the
Oh,
presentation,
okay.
I don't think.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now continue, Micah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Matthew 3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points of the zodiac. That's right here. The cardinal signs right here is where it begins. So summer, fall, winter, spring, right? Connected,
Mhm.
it makes the cross. We went over that a couple times. The two solstices and two equinoxes, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's son that he carries to his death. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, because the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So we're talking about the king, the sun. So that would be right here. So the closest point to here would be this one right here, Cancer. So June 21st, that's when the gospel starts. Now, this is the cusp handover date. We already explained it. So, again, just as a reminder, if you're in Leo, you could talk about the lion. If you're in Cancer, you could talk about the crab or the beetle or Celis borealis, the donkey, or the beehive cluster or Ursa Major, the bear. There's different things in each sign that you can talk about. If you're at the cusp in a story, you can talk about Cancer or Leo. Okay, so Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. So I use the Vitruvian Man, but in reality, I could have just used a picture of myself. It doesn't matter. You just need a human.
The Vitruvian Man works perfect because it's also like it could be Venus.
Check this out. Cancer being the head. So we were in Leo and now we're in Cancer. So that's two signs in a row. The mouth is right here. In Cancer, there's the beehive cluster. So he's eating the honey. The bees produce honey. Now, Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those you may eat any kind of locust. So there it is. Katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So when they're trying to tell you that a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, and they're trying to get you to eat bugs in the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, it's biblical. They're getting it from the Bible. So we were in Leo.
Oh, so yeah, it's a playbook.
It is.
It is a playbook. Okay, yeah.
We were in Leo to start it off. Then we were in Cancer for the honey, the mouth. He was eating the honey. Now we're in Gemini. That's 3 signs in a row. That's lower down on the body right here, as you can see. If you follow this down, this is lower down on the body. So this is the clothes made out of camel hair, or Camelopardalis, which is the constellation Camel Leopard, which is in Gemini right here. A little lower on the body. So we were in Leo, then we were in Cancer, then we were in Gemini, now we're in Taurus. That's 4 signs in a row. This is the midsection right here. This is where you get the belt. Now, Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, which is where you get the leather from. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits right here at the cusp between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. So next would be the baptism right here. So how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo, which is where we began, right here, right? This is the beginning of Leo, to a water sign. You go across the zodiac. Just take it to its opposing sign. Now you're touching Capricorn, the goat, and Aquarius, the baptism, the man with the water pitcher. So that's the baptism right there. Here we see how it makes a leap from one cusp to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. So Jesus right here, December 25th, June 24th. So this would be John. This would be Jesus. They're always 6 months apart. This is why in John 3:30 he says he must increase, because look, the sun every day is going to increase a degree a day, whereas he is now going to decrease. So he must increase, I must decrease. It's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. Open a Catholic calendar. The birthday of John the Baptist, St. John's Day, June 24th every year. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo, right? So this is July 24th. So what is, basically he goes into the desert and he's tempted by Satan for 40 days. So this is actually pretty simple. Literally just count 40 days. What do you get when you count 40 days from July 24th to, what do you get? You get September 2nd. This is right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. So what's the very next passage? If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see the mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. So we were in Leo, or we were in Cancer. So we went Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, and Taurus. So we went 4 signs to the left to start this off. Now we're in Leo. Now we're in Virgo, tell the stones to be loaves of bread. And now we're going into Libra for the law, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law. And if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. So there's 7 signs in a row right here. You go 4 to the left and 3 to the right. Both law and judgment are Libra. We started in Cancer, then we went to Leo, then we went to Virgo. So next is Matthew 7:15, 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. That's Aries right here. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The grapes are in Libra. Those are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later the same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. So he's walking along the zodiac and he sits beside the lake. So if he was in the lake, you could make the argument that he's in either Aquarius or Pisces. But because they use the word beside the lake, you're saying right here that he's at this cusp right here. Now, as this, if you follow it across Leo Virgo, you could talk about either, as it's touching Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains, is it ironic that the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So just come back down here to touch Pisces to talk about the fish. This is just a simple keyword cipher that is used to encode this. Now, Gemini is the sign of 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. So this ends here because we're in Gemini, right? Well, if we're at the cusp right here and we follow this to its opposing sign, this is December 21st. This is the day of death in Sagittarius. So what's the very next story? It's the death of John the Baptist. As I've mentioned previously before, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. So I'm going to show you how scripture is written now. I'm going to give you an example that I came up with. Let's take the sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation. Or, the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who is the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who is the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it, it splits the zodiac or the land in half. That's how scripture is written.
Wow.
Matthew 14.
Masculine and feminine too. Sorry.
Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Well, the 2 fish are literally Pisces, so I'm going to highlight that right here. And then if you go to its opposing sign, you get Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. Well, of course there's the bread right here. So the bread and the fish are opposing signs. This is the cross of God's Son. We were just in Virgo, remember? And now next is Libra right here, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, law, the unforgiving debtor, law, divorce and marriage, law, and the parable of the vineyard worker, wine. Virgo and Libra are 2 connecting signs. So you have Leo, then Virgo, then Libra. That's 3 signs in a row. Then Scorpio for the betrayal. And then Sagittarius for the death. So it closes off with 5 signs in a row. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. So are you starting to see the great implication of this so far? What I've
I
just
think it
shown,
is a beautiful silent or holy science, actually. I think it's a
it
holy
is.
science indeed.
It's the original. But more important than that, this means that at the very, very, very least, this is proof that the Bible was not meant to be taken literally. At the very
And
least.
possibly proof that it's been used to control through fear of the
Well, not just
masses.
fear, but control using astrology.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to show you so much more too. We're about halfway done. So
You're
let me
good.
read
No
this to
rush.
you again. Let me read this to you again, ladies. And I read this to you earlier, but let me read it to you again and see if this hits home a little harder. What is the point of this? We take for granted that we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus was when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and then pass them down to their children. Then them to their children. Eventually they learned how to write and wrote it down, and it evolved through all the ages. My point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you guys a couple of quotes as I show you how this was used against us. The U.S. was not founded as a Christian nation. Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. That's Thomas Jefferson. I have found Christian dogma unintelligible. That's Benjamin Franklin. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. That's John Adams. The Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon. That's George Washington. But there's more. And the day will come when the mystical generation of Jesus, by the Supreme Being as his father in the womb of a virgin, will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. That's Thomas Jefferson in a letter to John Adams. What influence, in fact, have Christian ecclesiastical establishments had on civil society? In many instances, they have been upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instance have they been sent as the guardians of the liberties of the people. James Madison. And then another James Madison quote. The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries. And then finally, Thomas Paine. This was written 250 years ago. The Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun, in which they put a man called Christ in the place of the sun and pay him the adoration originally paid to the sun. So these are the founding fathers. So this was not created as a Christian nation. But more importantly, I want to show you guys a pattern here. Why do they always crash the stock market in Libra? The Panic of 1907, October 1907, Teddy Roosevelt, Republican. Wall Street crash of 1929, October 24th, 1929. That's actually the handover date to Scorpio from Libra. Herbert Hoover, Republican. Black Monday, October 19th, 1987, Ronald Reagan, Republican. October 13th, 1989, Friday the 14th mini crash, George H.W. Bush, Republican. Stock market downturn of 2002, October 9th, 2002, George W. Bush, Republican. 10% in most of the world's indices drop. Crash, handover date to Scorpio, October 24th, 2008, George W. Bush, Republican. I'm not saying anything. I'm just pointing out the pattern here that as we have a Republican in office right now, and a lot of people don't want him to do well. You know, the first time there was the flu that went around. Now maybe they're going to crash it in Libra again. I don't know. But this is what I'm showing you guys. Now, the reason so many Christians, Catholics, Protestants, Lutherans, Episcopalians, Mormons, whatever you want to call them, do not even bother to listen to me talk is because of the Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading, interpretations of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums, all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. So do you think that the church actually knows about this astrology in there and they're just hiding it? And they're telling you not to
Oh,
look for it themselves?
absolutely. Absolutely. I knew as soon as I walked away from the church in 1999 and never really looked back. I knew then exactly why they were, what I didn't know then. I was learning exactly why they wanted us to stay dumb and illiterate, especially of the heavens, because forever the populace was illiterate to what even the Bible said. We weren't allowed to read, the
And then
peasants
they
and the
make
poor
it
people.
evil. So they make it
Mm,
evil. It's still here in the South,
yeah.
in the
And you
Bible
know what?
Belt that I know.
It's not just that they make it evil. They also play on humans because what they did in I don't know if you guys
Mhm.
have ever heard of Walter Mercado and his astrology in Mexico, or just in general.
Mm-mm.
Do is they it's not just that they demonize this, but like if you're a man and you're talking about astrology, they put out there that you're gay.
Yeah,
That's what
you're
they
feminine. It's a
Oh,
feminine quality.
yeah, exactly, that immediately is a turnoff for half of the population.
Right.
These are the people
right,
who are
right.
supposed to, so it's nonsense. It's nonsense. But I want to show you how they do this in modern day times. Do you remember the movie Face Off?
It's been a while,
Oh,
but
it's
yeah.
very
Okay.
occulted movie.
The
Nicolas
Two Face.
Cage. Do you remember what him and his brother in the movie's names were?
No.
Castor and Pollux.
Castor and Pollux Troy. Remember the name for later?
Hmm.
The names of Gemini? Castor and Pollux Troy. Hold on, that's too much. There we go. Well, what is Travolta's name? He's Sean Archer. Who's the Archer? That's Sagittarius
Thank
with
you,
the bow and
Ricky.
the arrow. Those are
Hmm.
opposing signs. So look at that. What about this? Harry Potter. There's a ton of characters in Harry Potter that are named after stars of constellations. You have Draco Malfoy, Pollux Black, Sirius
Hmm.
Black, Andromeda Black, Regulus Black, Arcturus Black, Cassiopeia Black, Orion, and Cygnus Black. Batman
Hmm.
Begins. Al Gol. Al Gol, if you know astrology, is the demon star that's located. It's
Yes,
fixed in Taurus.
the Medusa.
Al Gol is also known as the demon star. Has a long history of evil attached to it. In Batman Begins, the evil character's name is Ra's al Ghul, who gets his name from Al Gol. So there's that. Do you remember the Cranberries video for Zombie?
Hmm.
1990
Gold.
song video for the Cranberry Zombie. Here's Dolores O'Riordan. She's painted gold, and then this head dressing right here represents the rays of the sun, just like Jesus with the crown of thorns. But is that what it is? Well, in the next scene, look at this. It's the sun. She's gold on the cross with Sagittarius down here ready to kill her. They
Yeah.
put the occulted information out there. But it's not just
Yeah,
the
it's
Bible.
in everything.
It's
It's
in
in
everything.
everything.
This is the science that they don't want revealed. If you don't
Yeah.
know by now that the Bible is not original, you still might have doubts. And I get that. If it was just the Bible, that's one thing. But here is 6,000 years of ancient holy texts going from 5 Sumerian tablets, the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the Code of Hammurabi, which is where the Jews get their punishments and code of ethics from, to the Egyptian Book of the
Mhm.
Dead, to the Gnostic texts, all of them, to the Quran, to the Book of Mormon. So I'm actually currently still working on decoding the Apocrypha, the Ethiopian Bible, and the Colburn Bible, but they are all the same. So
The
let's start with
Colburn Bible. That's what I want to talk to you about because you were the first person I've heard say anything about the Colburn Bible in a long time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you can elaborate what the Colburn Bible is.
I have it. Hold on.
I need to take a 5. I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's basically a 3,600-year-old anthology, is what it basically is. It follows Exodus, basically.
Okay.
There's a bunch of stories within it.
Could you get a little, are you a little further from your mic?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was in my library. Yeah, no, I'm still working on the Colburn Bible. I've only done a couple of them, but they're all encoded the same exact way.
Well, right. The Colburn Bible, from what I have seen about it, it's like a lot of, I wouldn't say alien, but you could say alien, and it gives a lot of it gives a lot of biblical like destruction, and there's different chapters. It's a really interesting book.
Mhm. It
It's like
is.
a
It is.
creation kind of thing, you know.
Uh-huh. So should I wait for her to come back to start
No,
this?
you can go ahead. Go ahead. She's taking a 5. You just go right ahead.
Okay, so the Epic of Gilgamesh. Remember, this is a 6,000-year-old story. May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the leopard, deer, jackal, lion, wild bull, gazelle. May the rivers Eulia and Euphrates mourn you, whose sacred waters we offered to the gods. May the young men of the great walled Uruk mourn you, who cheered when we slaughtered the bull of heaven. Who's the bull of heaven? Taurus, the bull of heaven. May the farmer mourn you who praised you to the skies in his harvest song. May the shepherd mourn you who brought you milk. May the brewer mourn you who made you fine beer. May Ishtar's priestess mourn you who massaged you with sweet smelling oil. May the wedding guests mourn you like their own brother. The bear is Ursa Major, the great bear, Gemini and Cancer. The leopard is Camelopardalis. It is in Gemini. Mariga, or the deer, is located in Orion between Taurus and Gemini. The lion is Leo. The wild bull is Taurus. The rivers are Pisces, the water sign that signifies water. The bull of heaven is Taurus. The shepherd is Aries, as previously mentioned. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. The brewer and the fine beer is from barley, which is harvested in Virgo. Ishtar's priestess is Virgo, the woman. The sweet-smelling oil is the oil from Libra. The mourning of their own brother is Gemini, the brothers. The only two signs that are missing here are Scorpio, the scorpion or the eagle, and Capricorn, the goat. Astrotheology and Enki and the world order. Father Enki engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull. A great dragon who stands in Eridug. A grove of vines extending over the lands. Where stags are born, where wild goats are born in meadows. You close up the day and make the months enter their houses. The bull is Taurus, the dragon, which its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius. The stag is the deer, which is in Riga, which is in Orion, which is in between Taurus and Gemini. The goats are Capricorn. So there's 7 signs in a row right here to open the tablet. Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius. Enki and Nirhasaja. In Dilmun, the raven was not yet cawing, the partridge not cackling, the lion did not slay, the wolf was not carrying off lambs, the dog had not been taught to make kids curl up. The raven is the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders Virgo. The lion is Leo. These two are connecting signs. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders Libra. These are 3 signs in a row. The lamb is Aries, which is the wolf's opposing sign. The dog is Canis Major, which is 11 stars in Cancer. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and Libra are 4 signs in a row. I mean, it's exactly like this is encoded in the Bible, and these are 6,000-year-old tablets. Inanna's descent to the netherworld. She took the 7 divine powers. She had placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, and the other the life-giving water. They will offer you a river full of water. They will offer you a field with its grain. They eat no fish. The 7 of them poured the milk. They would not let the shepherd play the pipe. He turned his feet into snakes' feet, in the beer house and the tavern. And if you notice, this is a little small to look at right now, this particular slide, but if you notice, there's numbers before the sayings. Because in the Bible, I can give you scripture, verse, chapter, and whatever. But here, these are tablets, so they go by lines. So if you were to open up Inanna's Descent into the Netherworld, the tablet, if you were to search it online, and you were to search by the tablet lines that I have on the left here, I've basically shown you where you could find all this information. So the 7 divine powers are the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. That's in Taurus. The twin is Gemini. These are connecting signs. The life-giving water is Aquarius. The river full of water is Pisces. These are connecting signs. The field and its grains are Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. The fish is Pisces as well. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposing signs. The shepherd is Aries. So we have Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, 5 signs in a row. The snake is Ophiuchus, which sits in sidereal between Scorpio and Sagittarius. The beer house is Virgo. So we have 7 signs on this table, 5 in a row. Enki's journey to Nibiru. Its eaves roar like a bull. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bull of heaven. Your vault is a bull raising its horns. Your door is like a lion who sees the man. Your staircases is a lion coming down on a man. Rising sea without a rival, mighty awe-inspiring river which terrifies the land, a lion in the midst of the Abzu. The Suhu carp play among the honey herbs. Enki had oxen slaughtered and had sheep offered there lavishly. Enki reached for the beer and had emmer wheat beer pressed out. The bull is Taurus, the bull of heaven. The lion is Leo, the man is Aquarius. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The carp is Pisces, and the honey is the beehive cluster in the Cancer. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. The sheep is Aries. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus are now 4 signs in a row. The beer wheat beer is Virgo. Virgo and Pisces are opposing sign. Leo and Virgo are connecting signs. Cancer and Leo are connecting signs. Cancer, Leo, Virgo are 3 signs in a row. See, this is literally just showing you the heavens, but check this particular tablet out. The ones that are missing are Gemini, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. But even in the missing, there's patterns. Because if you take Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs, and Sagittarius and Capricorn are connecting signs. So they have not only connected all of them in the tablet, but they've also connected them in the missing signs. It's amazing how these were written. So there are countless other Sumerian texts. I only gave you 5 examples to show the pattern. So let's do the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, and Washusu dragon, a mad dog, and scorpion man, half fish, half man, half bull. The horned snake is Ophiuchus. A dragon, Draco, the mad dog, is the dog star Sirius. The scorpion man is a scorpion Aquarius mix. The half man, half fish is Aquarius Pisces border, which blends the fish and the man sign. And the half man, half bull, which is half Aquarius, half Taurus. The code of Hammurabi. If a man has stolen ox or sheep or ass or pig or ship, whether from the temple or the palace, he shall pay 30-fold. The man sign is Aquarius, the ox is Taurus, the sheep is Aries, the ass is Acellus Borealis, or donkey, located in Cancer, and the pig is a constellation called Porcus. The ship is a constellation called Argo that goes from Cancer to Scorpio. There's 7 signs in a row. The Egyptian Book of the Dead. O mighty of knives, lady of the 2 lands, the one who smashes the enemies of the weary-hearted one, the one who does what is wise, the one free of wrong. The name of its gatekeeper is the long-horned bull. What is to be said when arriving at the 5th portal? Words spoken by the Osiris Ani, the vindicated, O fiery one, mistress of heat, the joyful one, the one whom the entities of the bald-headed do not descend, the one who asks that something be given to her without a swift glance entering into her. The name of its gatekeeper is one who spears the disaffected. So the lady is Virgo, the woman, and the long-horned bull is Taurus, the bull. Chapter for becoming Ta, eating bread, drinking beer, purifying the hinder parts, and being alive in Heliopolis. What will you live on, say the gods and spirits to me? I will live and have power through bread. Where will you eat it, say the gods and spirits to me? I will have power and eat it under the branches of the tree of Hathor, my mistress, who made offering of bread, beer, and corn. Remember, bread, beer, and corn, I mentioned that at the beginning. That's all Virgo. In Heliopolis. Those who are in Heliopolis bow their heads to me, for I am their Lord, I am their bull. The bread, beer, and corn is all Virgo when you harvest. The bull is Taurus. Heliopolis is the city of light in Egypt. That's where everyone went to get enlightened, which is why when you go into a dark room in order to get enlightened, you turn the lights on, because that's the city of Egypt, to be enlightened. Everything is spiritual. Now we're getting into the Gnostic text. So here's the Book of Enoch. Semjaza taught enchantments. Armoros, the resolving of enchantments. Barakiyal taught astrology. Kokabel, the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Sariel, the course of the moon. And in those days shall the mountains leap like rams, Aries, and in the hills shall skip like lambs, Aries, satisfied with milk, the Milky Way galaxy, whose centers in Sagittarius. The Gospel of Q. Give us our daily bread today. Which of you would give your child a stone if they ask for bread? Or would you give them a snake if they ask for fish? The bread is Virgo, the snake is Ophiuchus, and the fish is Pisces. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. Everyone who divorces his wife and remarries is unfaithful to her, and whoever marries someone who's divorced is unfaithful too. Which of you, if you had 100 sheep and lost one of them, wouldn't leave the 99 in the hills and go after the one that got lost? Well, divorce, marriage, court, law, that's all Libra. The sheep is Aries. These are opposing signs. The secret gospel of John. Sophia saw what her desire produced, to change into the form of a dragon with a lion's head. So the dragon is Draco, and it goes from Aries to Sagittarius. The lion's head is Leo. Now, part of the dragon is Aquarius that it cuts across. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The Gospel of Thomas. Happy is the lion that a man will eat. The lion will become a man. Cursed is the man whom the lion eats, for that lion will become a man. They're talking about ingesting an animal and their components will become part of you, or you're part of them. However, in astrology, the lion is the sign Leo. The sign of the man is Aquarius. These are opposing signs of the zodiac. This is how you get the story in the Bible of Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel is Aquarius, the man, and the lion are Leo. They're opposing signs. So they made a story around it. Man is like a skilled angler who casts his net up, draws it up full of fish. They're talking about the man Aquarius and the sign fish Pisces. These are connecting signs. So if I were to show you guys how a mermaid and a merman came about, right? The man, fish, connecting signs, that's a merman. Pisces, Virgo, mermaid, that's an opposing sign, that's a woman. That's the merman and the mermaids. That's how you get them. You just play with the zodiac. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Mary questioned her master. At the end of an eon will all matter be destroyed. Each zodiac sign is considered a house, so the house of Aquarius, house of Pisces. Each sign is also called an eon. I mentioned it at the beginning. The Gospel of Philip. When he came to his disciples in splendid glory on the Mount of Olives, he wasn't small. He became great and made his disciples great so they could see him in his greatness. On that day he said in gratitude, you have united perfect light with Holy Spirit. Unite us with the angels as well. Don't scorn the Lamb. Without him it is impossible to know the King. No one may visit the King without robes of light. So the olives are Libra. The Lamb is Aries. Those are opposing signs. Then the good Samaritan gave wine and oil to the weak man. Well, wine and oil both come from Libra. The Gospel of Judas. A nearby lake of still waters quenched our thirst. That place reminded us of David's famed shepherd psalm, our souls are restored. The lake of still waters is Pisces the water. The shepherd is in Aries. Those are connecting signs. The Gospel of Emmanuel, discovered by Billy Meyer. This earth can nourish and support 500 million people of all the human races. But if these laws are not followed, in 2,000 years, 10 times 500 million people will exist, and the earth will not be able to support them anymore. So where have we heard the 500 million before? This gospel was discovered in 1963. What was created in 1980?
Exactly, right?
So from what
the Godstones.
From what I've researched, this is where it came from. Because if you look at this, if you were to take this gospel literally, 500 million people in 2,000 years. So 2,000 years ago was the time of Christ, Pisces, the beginning of Pisces. Mm-hmm. In 2,000 years, 10 times 500 million, that's 500 billion. I'm sorry, that's 5 billion. Well, in 1963, that's right about right. Truly I say to you, from now on I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vineyard, nor eat of the bread until I drink and eat again with you after my affliction. The grapes are Libra and the bread is Virgo. Those are connecting signs. The Quran. Oh, you guys are going to love this one. Give me
They're
a
all
second.
really good.
I'm almost done, believe it or not.
No, you're not. You're not done till you're dead.
All right. Here we go. Those who do not know say, why has not the Lord turned the word to us, and why will he not show us a sign from heaven? Similar words were spoken by those who came before them. Their hearts are alike. We interpret the signs for those who are committed to the faith. And how beautifully all people see the love of earthly passions. Here are women and sons. There are mountains of silver and gold, and marked horses and herds of cattle in a plowed field. Women are Virgo, the sign of the woman. The sons are the boys in Gemini. Horse is Sagittarius and cattle is Taurus. A plowed field is Taurus as well. Taurus and Gemini are connecting signs. Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Verily, in the creation of earth and sky and in the change of night to day, here are the hidden signs for those who have intelligence. And among them are those who only pretendingly listen to you. We put a cover on their hearts so they would not understand it, and we cover their ears with deafness. And even if they see all the signs, they will not believe them. I mean, this is the Quran, guys. This is what people are killing each other over. He is the one who brings He is the one who brings down water to you from the sky, and with it we give plants of all kinds to grow. And with it we grow shoots of cereals. From them we grew grains, sitting in an ear of a den side by side. From the date palm, its ovaries, bunches of fruits hanging low, gardens of vines, olives, pomegranates, which in many ways are so similar that's so different from each other. When fruits appear on them, rejoice in how they are poured and ripen. Truly in this are hidden signs for those who believe in God. So what are the hidden signs? Grains are planted in Taurus, then April showers bring May flowers, water from the sky, the grains grow. Reap in Virgo, gardens of vines and olives. Grapes and olives are pressed in Libra. This is the signs. And whoever wants to own a beautiful garden of date palms and vines, which is washed by abundant streams, where for his pleasure of all kinds of fruit, while old age befalls him, and the children are weak, so that a fiery whirlwind falls on the garden and swallows it to ashes. So the Lord explains his signs to you so that you can understand. Well, the vines are the vineyards in Libra, and the streams are the streams in the water sign Pisces and Aquarius. Now, here's another thing, too.
Beautiful.
The 72 virgins, right? This is what they all do it for. There is a star called 70 Virginis. That's its name, which borders Virgo. So that's the 70. Then there's one virgin in Virgo. So that's 71. Plus the virgin you get to marry on earth is your 72. Those are your 72 virgins. Now, Muslims will come to me and they'll tell me, actually, you're allowed to have multiple wives. Well, yes, you're technically allowed to have up to 4 wives if you're a Muslim man. But the caveat is you have to be able to afford them, and many of them can't. So they only have 1 wives. But these are the 72 virgins that they're blowing each other up over. It's unbelievable.
I think I wanted to go that one. You have the 70. What is it? 70 in heaven. So the 2 that would be on earth would be, they consider like fallen stars, right? To draw down the star, to draw down your oracle, your woman, the vessel of God. Is it making sense?
I'm trying to think.
Well, this actually goes along with more of the cult that I had left like a year ago, almost going on a year ago, on summer solstice. As a matter of fact, that's when I left. But they were really big about finding their oracle and drawing down the stars.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Just about done here. We got the Book of Mormon. Nevertheless, I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen on earth to me, and he was drunken with wine. The wine is Libra. Yeah, and I also thought they could not keep the commandments of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. Both wine and lawly things take place in Libra. I explained this at the beginning. And after the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again, or in fine, after the Gentiles had received the fullness of the gospel. The natural branches of the olive true, or the remnants of the house of Israel should be grafted or come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, their Lord, their Redeemer. Therefore remember, O man, for all thy doing shall be brought into judgment. The olives and the judgment all happen in Libra too. And my father said he should baptize in Bethabara, beyond Jordan. And he also said he should baptize with water, even that he should baptize the Messiah with water. And after he should be baptized the Messiah with water, he should behold and bear record that they had baptized the Lamb of God who should take away the sins of the world. So the baptism is literally Aquarius, and the Lamb is Aries. And I looked, and behold, the Lamb of God that was taken from the people, yea, the Son of the everlasting God was judged of this world, and I saw and bear record. The Lamb of God is Aries, the Son of God or the Son of Man is Aquarius. Judging takes place in Libra. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So, the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said that all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. So do you guys understand? I asked you about if you understood the implication that the Bible was not meant to be taken literally, but do you understand the great implication at this point? What is more likely, that all the Western ancient holy texts that we take for granted are living, breathing books, that Revelation keeps coming true, or that the ancient elites have encoded all our texts this way and are tailoring events that people can interpret as coming true? Which is Occam's razor.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely the latter. They did the exact same thing within the tarot because tarot is directly connected to astrology. I've been
Well,
reading tarot for
the
like
tarot is
20.
Torah. That's where you get the word
Right. The
from.
tarot
Tarot
is
is
the
Torah.
Torah. Exactly.
So I just wanted
Amazing.
to, since I finished that, I just want to share that I have a book series that dives into this and other topics that I'm going to read to you right now. Gematria,
Okay.
etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, DNA encoding, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, Tesla tech, shared dreaming, crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, corruption and secret societies. I actually have an 8-book series out. It's called Into the I don't know if you've heard the book series Into the Rabbit Hole, but that's me. I wrote the book series Into the Rabbit Hole, and these are my 8 books. And
Those
if
are
anybody's
really
interested,
interesting topics.
yeah. And I wrote them like George Orwell wrote 1984, so they're really fun. This is my website, debunkmywork.com. And I have a Rumble.
So the levitation with sound, that's an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm. And my Facebook and Instagram is Micah Dank, and my Twitter is at Real Mr. Dank. If you want to reach out to me in chat or possibly get the books, or just reach out to me in chat, I always talk to everybody, because I know this is a lot to take in.
Hmm.
Get it? It's a lot to take
It's
in, but
not. It's not for me because let's see, where are we at? Let's go back here. It's not for me because I found Santos like in 2015 and I listened to some of his stuff. I thought it was great, but I really like your approach much better. I like how far you're going with it, and it seems like you are not. You're just not doing it for popularity. You're doing it because you want to educate people to come to this knowledge. And I want to educate people on how I feel that, these books are thought prisons meant to keep us in this thought prison thinking that, if we don't do certain things and controlling us through fear, that we are going to straight hell. You know what I'm saying? I
uh-huh.
can't I just and your work speaks for itself too. Also, go ahead and if you can in private chat, drop your link to your Rumble, and I will go ahead and share it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Angie, did you have any questions? Did anybody have any questions? Those that are still here hanging out with us, thank you for hanging out. And I mean, I'm not Christian, and I don't set out to piss people off. I just naturally do that. And so I just don't care who I piss off. And these things are where, it fuels my passion to be able to look into the occult. I've studied it, for 25 years, and I've been even going on trained. And Micah, weren't you were a Mason, correct?
I was, and I did this
Mm-hmm.
presentation for them, and they told me it was too risky for the fraternity's reputation, and also too revealing of the signs. So I left. I was a 32nd degree, and I left.
And how long have you been into this
Exactly.
information?
A few years. I've been in there a few years, maybe like 4 or 5 years.
Okay. It's really deep
Right. See, my
information, and
yeah,
like
it
with the
is.
topics of your books, it's a lot of information that like where the new age movement can get caught up in stuff like that, like you were talking about the 144,000. There's so many things that they pull from, so that's interesting from the
Oh
astrotheology point of
yeah,
view.
I want to get into the books. I want to get into the books, Cheryl. Hey, Micah, get us the hookup on the books. We'll read them together, maybe even online, and just keep helping you spread this
Well, I could always
information
email you. I
because
have audiobooks.
Awesome. That would be awesome too. If you have, oh, you have audiobooks. Okay. Yeah. If you have audiobooks, we could definitely, we could do like book reviews after we listen to them too. That would be awesome. Would you want to do
Right.
that? I bet. Sure. Yeah, I would love to give a good book review. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, ladies, I have to take
Okay.
off.
You're
All
good. You're
right. Well,
good.
thank
It's
you
getting
very
late.
much.
We'll talk. Kevin,
Absolutely.
You have a
we'll
good
talk.
evening.
We'll talk online.
All right. We're closing out. All right. Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.